Hi everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Backchat. Welcome to Yogaberry, your yoga for scoliosis community. It's nice to be back. Yes, thank you so much for tuning in. I've not been very well over the last few weeks, and I actually lost my voice completely at some point, so couldn't talk at all. So there was no Backchat, but I'm back now. And we've got some fabulous guests lined up as well over the next few weeks. So we've got Suzanne Martin next week, another yoga teacher who has written a great book, well worth a read, about yoga and scoliosis from a slightly different perspective. And she will tell us all about it next week. And then we've got the lovely Celeste Pereira joining us a few weeks later as well. She's going to be talking about hypermobility, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, and a few others as well. Spinal fusion we've got coming up as well. So there's a few things coming up. Obviously, as always, if there's anyone you would like me to interview, or if there's a topic that you would like me to cover, then do feel free to let me know. As always, I'm always open to suggestions, of course. So if you are here live, make sure that you join us in the chat if you can. Unless you're driving, then don't, of course, and just listen. That's fine as well. But if you are here live, let us know where you are in the world, where you're from. If you have any questions, if you have any specific questions, and I'm going to be talking about structural versus functional scoliosis today, which has come up a number of times. I've got different clients as well that this week were mentioning it and asking what exactly is the difference and why is it important and why do we have to know about this and what does that mean for our yoga practice. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So I can see Laura is here. Your voice is still a bit so. Oh no, is it? I thought it was back to normal, but yeah, it's been taking definitely a lot longer than I thought it was. So yes, but I am feeling much better, and I feel like I can actually talk without coughing as well again. So that's good. And I hope, Laura, that you're better too. I know that COVID struck you down, so I hope that you're feeling better. Good, nice. Sue Miller is here. She's saying she's from Florida. Lovely. Hi, Sue. Nice to see you here as well. And I always appreciate all of you tuning in live. I know that you're taking our time out of your day to listen to me. So I do want to make it relevant, obviously, and I want to make it interesting for you. So let's dive straight into the topic. And again, if you are just joining us, feel free to just put your questions into the chat box as well. Hi, Liz. Liz Rogers is here. Good to see and hear you. Yes, I can speak again, thankfully. My children thought it was hilarious when I lost my voice for a few days. But yes, it's back now. So there we go. Right. So structural and functional scoliosis, and if you have been diagnosed with one of them, then feel free to let us know. I'm going to be starting with functional scoliosis because I think there's a lot of kind of misconceptions about this, and a lot of people are not really aware of what it is and what it means. So I don't know if that sounds familiar to anyone, but you're kind of going for a massage, or you're going to see your chiropractor or your osteopath, and then someone says, oh, you've got a little bit of a scoliosis. Maybe they say, oh, you've got scoliosis. Or maybe they say, oh, I can see some scoliosis there. What does this actually mean? So we have to be really, really mindful what that means. And really, they should not be giving you a diagnosis just like that. But that's just, putting it out there like that. Because there are so many differences between kind of the different types of scoliosis, and anything that sounds like a disease, like scoliosis does, is obviously quite alarming, right? So we're just in the middle of the new practice transformation, And we are just kind of, we're in module 1 still, and we are kind of talking about the diagnosis and what that means. And some people can be really, really frightened and can be really concerned when they have kind of been given that label, you've got scoliosis, and not quite sure what that means. Coming back to the functional scoliosis affects, there are some statistics out there, between 70 and 75% of all people. So that is a huge amount of people. Most people have some sort of functional scoliosis. And what that simply means is that there is some sort of imbalance in your body that comes from the muscles, fascia, connective tissue that pulls your spine into a scoliosis. Now, this could be due to a number of reasons. So this could be, for example, let's say you broke your ankle a few years back, and it took a really, really long time to heal. And then it was just about healing, and then you broke it again, right? I am exaggerating right here, but I'm hoping that that makes sense. So for a long period of time, you are having to compensate. So obviously, if you've broken your ankle, maybe you're on crutches for a while. Maybe you've got a little bit of a limp. Maybe afterwards, even after it's healed, it doesn't feel quite right. You can't really walk properly. So you are going to lean on your good leg a lot more. You are going to use the muscles in your body that are strong, and they are going to be even stronger because you are relying so much on them. So this could be, for example, an example of how a functional scoliosis occurs. So an injury, compensation, and then over a long period of time, the muscles starting to adapt to that new shape. Another reason could be, and I've heard this a couple of times before, people that are having problems with their eyesight, and maybe they lost sight of one eye completely, or it was artificially like covered up or something like that for a long time. And they are having to look with the eye that is actually seeing properly for a long time, and they have been turning their head for a long time because that's how they now see properly. Now, what does that do? Of course, you can see already one side of my neck starts to shorten. I'm tilting my head. I'm probably also slightly turning, right? So my left shoulder is now coming forwards. So the whole body starts to compensate and starts to adjust to this kind of little bit of imbalance that is happening. Again, this is another example of a functional scoliosis. Another example could be you've got a leg length difference. Now, this actually affects, this is a much bigger problem, of course. Rather than, slightly turning your head or having an injury, which is usually temporary, you cannot make your legs the same length, even though I've heard of some horrible operations, but let's not go there. So usually when you have a leg length difference, that's it. You cannot do anything about that unless you wear a heel lift or anything like that. This can also give you a functional scoliosis, and that's sometimes a bit confusing because then people think, oh, I have a structural scoliosis because it affects my structure. A structural scoliosis is really only when it affects your spine, right? When actually the vertebrae are slightly shaped differently. Usually occurs obviously when you're growing. Sometimes it also can occur due to degeneration, so after menopause. So but what it means is that your spine, your bones are actually shaped in a kind of scoliotic pattern, or taking you into a scoliosis. And so the big difference between functional scoliosis and a structural scoliosis is that when you do a forward bend, when you do the Adams forward bend test, where you're rounding forwards and someone is looking at you from the back, in a structural scoliosis, you will see a difference, a height difference in your back on one side to the other. And I've just written a blog post about it I can link to that in the description as well, where you can see the pictures of what that looks like. And I'm sure if you have structural scoliosis, you know what I'm talking about. If you have a functional scoliosis, you won't be able to see this, right? That there will not be a difference. It will just kind of disappear when you're rounding forwards. Even though when you're standing up, you might really feel like, oh, one of my shoulders is higher and the other one is lower, or my hips are shifted over to the side. When you're actually bending forwards, then this completely disappears. And this is what can be sometimes a little bit confusing, because what can happen is that you have a little bit of both, and that you have a little bit of structural scoliosis and you have some functional scoliosis as well. And it's a combination. So, and this is why I do have a video, obviously, on my YouTube channel, which is called "What is Your Curve Pattern?" or something like that, which helps you to kind of identify what your curve pattern is. But actually, obviously, the more I learn and the more people I work with and the more people I see, I kind of realize that, yes, there are some patterns that always come up, that with a right thoracic curve, for example, your right shoulder will be rolled forwards. But it's not always that straightforward, because there can be so many different factors. And maybe some people have got their structural scoliosis, but then they've also developed this functional scoliosis on top of that. That usually follows a similar pattern, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's slightly different. So let me know if that makes sense. And I will talk about what that means for our yoga practice, obviously. But I just want to pause here and see that we're all good, and if that all makes sense. So structural scoliosis, to summarize, is a little bit harder to not to work with, but obviously we cannot reverse the scoliosis completely with a structural scoliosis, because your bones are shaped in a different way. If it's a functional scoliosis, if it's just the muscles and soft tissue, that's obviously where we can really do something with exercise, with yoga, with Pilates, and we can completely correct it as well. So that can completely disappear. What we're having to think about, obviously, is now, how do we do this? How do we do this in our yoga practice? And coming back to the functional scoliosis, what I would say is you start with all your asymmetric poses. And this might be slightly different to what I tell my people in the Yoga for Scoliosis class. And I know some of you are regulars there on a Wednesday afternoon. We always do a combination of things that are symmetrical and then things that are slightly asymmetric as well. We don't do a huge amount of twists and bendy things at all, because that just takes us further into our scoliosis pattern. But with a functional, if you just have a functional scoliosis, you might actually want to do a lot of those things, right? Because they give you information. So I would do a lot of asymmetric poses, where you can really feel what the difference is, right? Where you can really notice, how does my twist feel on one side compared to the other side? How does my warrior one look like or feel like? Doesn't matter what it looks like, what it feels like on one side, and how does it feel on my other side? What could I do? Obviously, anything that is more difficult is going to give you information. So if you can twist around like an owl to the left, but then on the right side you're kind of getting stuck, then you might want to spend a little bit more time on the more difficult side, of course, and exploring it, not pushing into it, but just seeing if you maybe can find a little bit more room when you're doing your practice. So I'm still talking about a functional scoliosis. So muscles, soft tissue are affected. So maybe we can think of some poses right here. And if you're here, feel free to chip in, obviously. So I'm thinking, for example, the Gomukasana, cow face pose. Not the best name, of course, but where you bring one arm behind you and then the other one behind you like that, right? This is kind of bad teaching, but I'm sitting at a desk, so it's difficult to know. How does this feel on one side? And then how does it feel on the other side? And this is great for structural scoliosis as well, of course, because there will probably be a difference. But again, in a functional scoliosis, you can really seek out those asymmetric poses and really get a lot of information there. Good. Nora, hi Nora. Nora saying here and saying I just did your exercise yesterday and it's really helpful. Thank you so much. Oh, you're welcome. Did you do one of the videos from the YouTube channel? I'm just curious. And guys, do let me know. I'm thinking about creating some more videos for YouTube, and let me know if there's anything that you kind of want me to go through or want me to cover in there. So do let me know. Lovely. Laura saying Gomakasana everyday exercise for me. Yes, and it's great. And have you ever noticed that if you do not have a thoracic curve, and I know Laura you do, but anyone who doesn't have a thoracic curvature, so where you don't have a structural imbalance, I bet you still have a functional imbalance, just because you are probably more dominant in one side. So I'm right-handed, for example. So a lot of the activities I do is with my right hand. Especially if I do something unconsciously. So a lot of times, like I'm sitting at my desk, I use my mouse and I'm bringing the right arm forward. So the right side is getting a lot of internal rotation, of course, the whole time. It's also stronger. So here the pectoral muscles are stronger, or shorter, really. Let's not say stronger. But I am kind of in this pattern. Now, if I now had a structural scoliosis on top of that, that of course would be taking me even more into that pattern. So again, I would want to kind of look at opening this up a lot more than the other side, right? Because the other side is already open and it doesn't really need that space. So yes, maybe I do spend a little bit more time where I'm kind of opening up through the right side, and there's a lovely stretch by the wall that you can do with the arm out to the side and opening this up. Breathing, creating space, but you don't want to do the same thing on the other side as well, because it's already doing that, and that would just kind of create more imbalance, of course. Lovely. Okay, Nora is saying, do you have any idea about after surgery recovery? Have you just had spinal surgery, Nora? So I do have a playlist there for spinal fusion as well. You want to wait, of course. I know you've already done something, but you want to wait your 6 months, of course, after surgery, and then you start small, right? You start with your walking. And in terms of yoga, you can do, there's a lot of things you can do lying on your back, of course, but starting really gentle with some stretches, of course, and then you can slowly start to build it up. But if you've just had surgery, you're really wanting to strengthen up and strengthen around the core, strengthen around the hips again. And it's almost like you have to, and I haven't had spinal fusion, so I cannot talk from my own experience, but I've worked with many people that have had the surgery. And it's almost like you having to learn all those different movements that you've taken for granted before. You're kind of having to relearn them and learning them in a slightly different way. Good. Okay, so tool. Hi, please do create more YouTube videos. Is it possible for you to tell me which type of scoliosis I have if I email you my x-ray? So I don't, so first of all, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, I'm a yoga teacher. And yes, I do consultations, of course, and we can have a look at your x-ray. I do not give a diagnosis. I go by what you have already. So an x-ray usually comes with a medical report as well. But obviously an x-ray will tell you if your curvature is going to the right or going to the left, because you will know, you would see a little R or a little L on your x-ray, of course. In the initial assessment that I do, I would have a look at you, how you're standing up, and we're kind of assessing your posture. So, you know, what do the shoulders do? What is one shoulder blade coming out a little bit more? What's going on around the waist, the hips? Are they kind of, is the pelvis centered with the upper body, with the shoulders? Is one leg maybe tending to turn out? So we're kind of investigating. We're looking at all these different patterns, and then we look at the yoga poses, obviously, and the yoga practice that we can do to help you to improve on that pattern, if that's what you want to do, and kind of come out of your scoliosis pattern a little bit more. Hoping that makes sense. Good. So I've recently discovered your channel. We'll definitely try your yoga videos. Yes, absolutely. Do try some of those. Try some of those videos, of course. But it's really important that you get something, or that you start to, and you know, you can do this on your own. You don't need me for this specifically. That you start to investigate a little bit more. You know, understanding your x-ray, understanding your scoliosis. How does your body behave in different movements? I would also look at how do you sit? How do you stand? Do you have kind of particular things that you do all the time? Like, for example, do you tend to cross your legs always the same way? When you're standing, do you always kind of bring one hip out? When you're carrying a baby, do you always carrying them on the same side? Things like this. I would look at all of this. So there's a lot of things that you can do on your own, and just kind of assessing yourself at the end of the day. But it's always easier, of course, if you've got someone else. Good. So you're in, right, I see. So you're in Mongolia. There's no doctor specialized in scoliosis or yoga instructor specialized in scoliosis. Well, there is the internet, of course. So there is a lot of free information available as well. And, you know, this YouTube channel, I've really created it, obviously, because there are so many people that are in remote areas of the world, and to share some information, sharing things that I've learned throughout my journey and with my own scoliosis, but also working with people. But you will find other people as well. And if you are on Instagram, make sure that you are connecting with me at jaureguiberry.scoliosis. And it's a great community of people that do different things. So, and if you have a look at this channel as well, you will come across a lot of people in different countries that have things to offer as well. So I haven't found anyone in Mongolia yet, I have to say, but you know, you have access to this, of course. So I'm hoping that you find lots of videos that you're finding helpful. Good. And has anyone seen, I'm just thinking about this, has anyone seen the post from Usain Bolt today, by the way, fastest man in the world? And so he posted on his Facebook and his Instagram a picture of himself, and where you can really see his right thoracic scoliosis, right? And it's actually, I did not realize how pronounced it is, actually. And has anyone else seen it? And obviously his muscles are so wonderfully developed and shaped that you can really, really see it. Now, this man is super strong, of course, and he's got a whole team of trainers and coaches and people that help him with his scoliosis and with, you know, resetting and all of that. But he would be an example of having a structural scoliosis, right? So There's nothing he can do to make it completely disappear. And again, he's got a whole team of people. So if there was a way, he would have found it by now, right? But actually, in terms of function, he is doing fine. He's doing better than most people, right? With, well, then better than anyone really, because he is the fastest, obviously. So it doesn't, just because you have a structural scoliosis, doesn't mean that you cannot do things, that you cannot achieve things, that you cannot be strong, that you cannot be athletic. It doesn't mean that you will have pain. It doesn't mean that you are going to, I don't know, sit in a wheelchair or something like that later on. None of that is true. So all that it needs is it needs a little bit of maintenance. And yes, that's probably where Usain Bolt has got a bit of an advantage, because he does have a team, and I'm sure he does get treatments and, you know, massages and physio treatments, and he probably does have, you know, coaching for his scoliosis as well. But we can all educate ourselves, right? We can all learn as much as possible about ourselves. So again, this is really what this channel is all about, obviously giving you the tools. Laura is asking how old he is. I don't know how old he is, actually. Does anyone know? If you do know it, then type it into the chat. No idea how old he is. In his 30s? Guessing. I feel like he's been around for a while, hasn't he? Good. Nora is saying, I have scoliosis and I'm a ENT surgeon. So yeah, scoliosis doesn't prevent you. No, absolutely. So scoliosis should never, exactly. So you can do everything, right? And there are many amazing athletes and people who have accomplished lots of amazing things. And scoliosis should never, ever hold you back. So sometimes people kind of use it, or, well, maybe not on purpose, so let's not be unfair, to use it as an excuse. But yeah, ask yourself the question, right? Is this really true? Is this really because of my scoliosis? Or is there maybe another reason why this is happening in my life, right? Good. So you're asking, I haven't even noticed he has scoliosis. Yeah, so do go have a look at that picture. So I did post it on my Facebook page, on my Jaureguiberry Facebook page. I've also posted it in my story, but obviously just check out Usain Bolt's Instagram. I'm sure you'll find it. It's the latest post from today, and yes, you can have a look at his back and properly have a look at his back. Usain is 35. Thank you, Laura, for looking this up. Thank you. Usain Bolt. And Laura has put his first name. Yeah, Usain Bolt, B-O-L-T. Yeah, high level athlete. I don't know what he's won all sorts of things. Sprinter, I guess. I'm going to get in trouble if I say the wrong thing here. But yes, he's very, very fast, basically. And he's achieved amazing things, and he does actually, so he does have a visible structural scoliosis. So that's kind of the bottom line of this, that it's not just a mild curve. He does actually have quite a significant scoliosis, so much that he talks about it, right? So yeah, that was a nice thing that came up today, and I thought that this is really empowering. And I was thinking of one of my students in the practice transformation right now, who's finding it all very difficult, and who's finding it all very overwhelming, and having that diagnosis, and what does that exactly mean So I'm hoping that this is helping you, right? I'm hoping that this is inspiring you and uplifting those of you who are here and who are maybe thinking, you know, I've got a structural scoliosis, so exercise is not going to straighten my spine. Well, so what, right? You can be strong. You might have to adapt slightly what you're doing, right? You might have to think about not doing everything exactly the same on the right side and on the left side, or maybe thinking about where does your scoliosis take you, and can I kind of bring myself back and center myself, come back to center. But it doesn't mean that you're going to have problems, or that there is, you know, something seriously wrong with you and you need to be corrected or healed or anything like that. You are perfect the way that you are. It's about finding a way to manage it, right? So my eyesight isn't perfect, so I wear glasses, right? So nobody has a perfect spine, but we need our tools. Just like glasses, we need all the tools that we can do, that we can have to manage our scoliosis, so that we can still be healthy, happy, move well, and live well, and all of that. Good. Lovely. So thank you. Okay, so Tool put it in the chat. Usain Bolt. That's how you spell his name. Good. Nora is saying, I have to go. Thank you for your videos. You're welcome. Bye. Hope to see you soon. Come back next week. We'll have Suzanne Martin here. So she's going to talk about her book about scoliosis as well, and very knowledgeable person. So make sure you tune in for that. Phoebe is asking, can a person with scoliosis swim? Yes, of course. And swimming is usually kind of the first thing that is recommended by physios, by doctors, when there is a scoliosis diagnosis. They say go swimming, because they know that this obviously strengthens the upper body. So yes, it's a really, really good exercise to do. Backstroke especially is very good. And yeah, so again, it shouldn't hold you back. There are some things obviously you might want to adapt or think about, but even doing something one-sided like playing tennis or playing golf, do what brings you joy, because those benefits far outweigh the risks, right? And if you do play golf, there is a lot of twisting going on. But then, okay, then you do your other movement exercise or your other movement practice will just be no twisting, right? You're going to be focusing on elongation, on stability, and centering yourself, right? So always think about, what do you enjoy doing? Go and do that, and then do something to, if it takes you into scoliosis more, then do something to balance it out. That would be my suggestion for this. Lovely. Living in the past, thank you for your videos. I have a 42-36 degree S curve, so I'm thinking, so 42 probably thoracic, right thoracic maybe, 36 lumbar, possibly left lumbar curve. You've helped me manage it, and I feel as good as I can. Lovely. Thank you so much for sharing this. And again, this is what it's all about. It's not about having a perfect X-ray. And you know, you can have people with a dead straight spine on an X-ray, and they have loads of problems, and they have loads of pain, and they have disc issues and sciatica, and you know, all sorts of things going on, but they have a straight spine. So good for them, but you are so much more than your bones at the end of the day. So there's so much more going on, and again, it's about finding out what works for us, finding out what helps us, of course, And then also sharing those benefits, right? Sharing it with other people. Good. Phoebe is saying, I will give it a try, though one of my legs is paralyzed. And you might want to have a look at some chair yoga, right? There's a lot of things that you can do in sitting and being in a chair. I don't know if I have any videos on my YouTube channel. I'm sure I do. But yes, so you can still focus on your upper body, right? So a lot of, again, elongation. I'm not wearing the best yoga clothes here today, but hopefully it makes sense. So there's a lot of things that we can adapt, of course. So there's always a way of working with what we have, right? Good, guys. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for your fabulous questions, of course, and our little chat about Usain Bolt. Go and check him out, of course. Check out his Instagram post. And yes, make sure you are connected with me on Instagram, of course. There is a downloadable sequence for those of you who are new. If you want to have a look at that, feel free to download that. It's got some yoga poses, and then you get some emails as well from me with some more tips on working on living with scoliosis. Right, so thank you so much. Tune in next week, of course, 4 p.m. for the interview with Phoebe, and I see you very soon. Bye, guys.